Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update. And Spain's capital, Madrid, is preparing for the big Nato Summit, which will get underway tomorrow, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now, let's get into the news. And as I said, a big NATO summit kicking off tomorrow in Spain's capital, Madrid. And apparently it's going to be one of the most important NATO summits in recent times. As we can read here, NATO to decide in Madrid on largest military deployment since the Cold War. This week's summit in Madrid marks a turning point in the history of NATO, an alliance that was called into question after the collapse of the USSR, its main objective, but which will undergo a kind of refounding in the Spanish capital to adapt to a war scenario unprecedented since the end of the Cold War. The 30 allies are meeting in a state of maximum military alert due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine and are ready to embark on a dazzling arms race to turn the eastern part of Europe into a fortress with thousands of soldiers and large deployment of military equipment in anticipation of a possible attack by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. NATO wants to send a message that it is on a war footing and ready to respond to any aggression against any of its members. So NATO, as we saw there, ready to respond. And the summit, as I mentioned, kicking off tomorrow, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare for people living in Madrid. But fortunately, it's only going to last a couple of days. Now, as I mentioned in yesterday's live stream, more anti-crisis measures were announced by the government last Saturday, and these are the new measures agreed by the government in the anti-crisis decree. A direct grant of €200 for households with an income of less than €14,000 per year and assets of less than €43,196. A 15% increase in non-contributory retirement and disability pensions, as well as in the minimum living income LMI. A 50% reduction in the cost of Renfe season tickets and multi-journey tickets, return trips not included, and bus lines operating under the state concession formula. And the freezing of the price of the butane gas cylinder at €19.55, the price set in the last review in May, until the end of the year. So there we go, some of the main anti-crisis measures that were approved by the government last Saturday. Now, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez used his time in front of the cameras last Saturday to complain about a campaign that he says is trying to destroy his government. As we can read here, Sánchez complains of a campaign against his government from economic and media sectors. "We are inconvenient," he says. Pedro Sánchez has denounced a campaign against his government by economic and media sectors. He did so at the end of his press conference after the Extraordinary Council of Ministers, which approved a new package of measures until the 31st of December to tackle the rise in inflation resulting from the war in Ukraine. Sánchez said that his is a government that is inconvenient for certain economic powers who have their media terminals. But he warned, "They are not going to break us. We will continue to defend the interests of the working class in this country," he said. So a campaign against the government, according to Prime Minister Sánchez, from certain economic and media sectors. I wonder which ones he's referring to. Now, low-cost airline Ryanair began its strike in Spain the other day. And as we can see here, long queues and dozens of cancellations on the third day of the Ryanair strike. The third day of the strike by Ryanair cabin crew members is taking place with dozens of flights cancelled to or from Spain and with flights delayed at most Spanish airports, union sources have reported. A total of 20 flights with origin or destination Malaga Costa del Sol Airport have been cancelled until 7 p.m. this Sunday. Malaga has thus become the Spanish airport with the most cancelled flights, followed by Barcelona with 14 and Ibiza and Alicante with 4 flights cancelled each. Nationally, 54 flights have been cancelled up until 7 p.m. with origin or destination to Spanish airports, and at least 208 flights have been registered with delayed departure or arrival from the 10 bases that Ryanair has in Spain, according to the union USO. So the Ryanair strike causing havoc at some airports around Spain. And remember that in July, EasyJet workers here in Spain are also going on strike. Now, as we know, it's been a hot start to the spring-summer season in Spain this year, with various heat waves already, and future heat waves in Spain will now be given names similar to cyclones and hurricanes. As we can see here, heat waves will also have names. These will be the first ones. Intense heat waves will be categorized with alphabetical names in decreasing order, according to the Prometeo project, a trial initiative based in Seville as of Tuesday, which consists of classifying the heat waves that occur in the territory. The next heat wave will be named Zoe. Representatives of the Adrian Arst Rockefeller Foundation, as well as the mayor of the city, Antonio Muñoz, met in the Andalusian capital to present this pilot project, where the names of the next 5 extreme heat waves were announced: Zoe, Iago, Wenceslao, Zina, and Vega. So there we go, and I imagine it's only a question of days before heatwave Zoe is recorded in Seville. Now, if you're living in Spain and you spend time driving on the roads here, you've probably noticed that the cars that you're seeing on the roads are getting older. And one newspaper is asking the question, why should we be concerned about Spain's dangerous problem with old cars? Spain has a problem, at least when it comes to its car fleet. According to the latest report by the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, the age of Spanish cars in 2020 was 13.1 years, while the average age of the European fleet was 11.8 years. The figures are worrying, especially when compared with neighbouring countries. But the reason why having an aging car fleet is a cause for concern goes far beyond aesthetics. It's a twofold problem. The newer a car is, the safer it is and the less it pollutes. Therefore, the older it is, the greater the risk to road safety and the more it harms the environment. So there we go, that article putting it out there that Spain has a problem with old cars. And let's be honest, with the way that the economy is going in this country, who can afford a new one? Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from JMoss7. Thanks for all the videos, Stu. I'm moving to Barcelona soon. We'll be studying for my master's there. Going through the absolute headache that is the Spanish consulate of San Francisco here in California, trying to get my student visa. They don't answer any form of communication. I wanted to arrive in Spain in early July, but now I'm worried I won't even get my visa appointment before classes start in September. Just awful, and I can't plan any plane ticket, etc. Hope it's worth all the effort. Yeah, JMoss, thanks for the comment, and I understand your concern, but unfortunately dealing with some parts of Spanish bureaucracy can be a bit of a nightmare. I have had some terrible experiences over the years, especially when it comes to renewing residency permits. But fortunately, there has been a big improvement when it comes to getting things like residency done, at least here in Madrid, over the last 5 years or so. So my recommendation would be to not panic. You still have a few months left before you have to come to Spain, and fingers crossed that everything is sorted by then and you get to enjoy your study year in Barcelona. One here from Helen in Lanza, designated beaches only. Yeah, Helen, thanks for the comment, and in reply to something that popped up in yesterday's live stream when somebody asked the question about nudist beaches here in Spain. I said that there are various beaches around the country where people can get their kit off if they want to, but in my experience they seem to be a little bit off the beaten track. And you saying that down there in Lanzarote there are specific nudist beaches. So if you are looking for a nudist beach here in Spain, they do exist. Probably better to check the internet to find out exactly where they are, and probably not a good idea to take your clothes off at some of the more popular beaches here in Spain, especially where there's families and kids, as you'll most likely get arrested. Because remember that now in some coastal resorts here in Spain, you can't even take your shirt off in the middle of the town. One here from Rosemary. Can I drive my family car in Mallorca when I visit them from the UK with my UK current license? Yeah, Rosemary, thanks for the comment, and the answer to your question is yes. If you come to Spain from the UK on holiday, you can drive on your UK license. In fact, anybody coming to Spain on holiday from another country that has a valid driver's license is allowed to drive in Spain for a period of up to 6 months, I believe. With some licenses, you might have to get an international driver's license, but I don't think that's the case from people from the UK. One here from David. Have you ever been to a town in Guadalajara called Orche? You might want to check it out. A nice hotel called Fuensanta. Great place to stay. Yeah, David, thanks for the comment, and thanks for the recommendation of a town close to where I am, where I can film one of my videos. I mentioned in yesterday's live stream that I'm going to get out and about a little bit more and start filming some walk around videos in local towns. So I'll add that one to my list. Orche in Guadalajara. And if anybody else has a recommendation for me close to where I'm living here on the outskirts of Madrid, either in Cuenca, Guadalajara, or somewhere close by, please let us know in the comment section below. One here from Paul: an interesting point, mate, regarding corruption here in Andalusia. I had a conversation with a Spanish friend the other day. If I understood him correctly, there are at this time 4 out of 5 ex-mayors of Jerez de la Frontera in prison for, would you believe, taking a bung. Yeah, Paul, thanks for the comment, and that was something that I mentioned in the video the other day, the problem of corruption in Andalusia. In fact, I think one of the biggest corruption cases in Spanish democratic history took place in that autonomous community. And there was a time not too long ago when 2 ex-Andalusian presidents were on trial for corruption. And when it comes to the town that you mentioned there, Jerez de la Frontera, down there in Cádiz, famous of course for sherry wine, I did a bit of research and found out that it's not 4 of 5 mayors that have gone to prison, but 2 out of 4. And as we can see here, these are the mayors in question. Pedro Pacheco, who was in power from 1979 to 2003. The former mayor is currently a third-degree prisoner and has applied for parole, having reached the age of 70. And Pilar Sanchez, who was in power from 2005 to 2011. She had to serve a prison sentence, but is now free, but retired from political life. So there we go. And I think a town's got a bit of a problem when 2 of its former mayors end up in prison. But hey, that's just my opinion. And finally, one here from Jonathan. Flew in yesterday from New York. I was out of Barajas Terminal 1 in under an hour. Yeah, Jonathan, thanks for the comment, and good to see that you didn't have any problems getting out of Madrid's Barajas Terminal 1 the other day. We saw a comment the other day from somebody who's flying to Madrid from San Diego, I think it was, and they were a little bit worried about the current state of airports, not only here, but in other parts of the world as well. We also saw earlier in today's video that there have been some problems with Ryanair flights in Spain, at Malaga Airport in particular. So I think some people are going to get lucky and not have any dramas with their flights, but other people are going to be affected. And I imagine the peak tourist months of July and August are going to be the worst, but time will tell. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.